Neeko was recently revealed, and here are my first impressions, thoughts on her abilities, lore, and my thoughts overall, included thoughts on her sexuality. So let's first start with the impressions. Right at the start, seeing her trailer, I cannot say I was too impressed. For a start, I do not like the entire concept of speaking about oneself in the third person. It's typically attributed to someone with a limited vocabulary or intelligence.
Mundo goes this way.
Which she, as someone based on her lore, who could mimic people and seems pretty intelligent, should easily manage. Also, as soon as I saw her, I immediately thought of this. The idea of a chameleon left a lot wanting, and I thought they'd make something pretty epic, to be honest. Remember, there was a gap between the trailer and when her abilities were confirmed, so I thought they would give her an ability allowing her to mimic ally abilities, or even better, enemy abilities. Something of that aspect. I mean, literally cloning an ally is nothing that excites me too much. I think this makes LeBlanc's passive less unique, and low-key gives Neeko the upper hand. Neeko is better at illusions than LeBlanc, the deceiver, who brought the entire world to its knees almost.
It's just not realistic.
I seriously feel they should give LeBlanc, out of all the champs, the ability to see the real Neeko. It would certainly bring an aspect of lore into the game. Overall, I was not too excited for this champion. I didn't sense any real identity or unique aspect to her right away. She felt very, innocent and childlike, which, to be honest, we have plenty of. Now let's talk about the abilities. Passive, Inherent Glamour, love the name, turns into an ally. Pretty fun, cool, interesting,
And as they say in the Bible, love your hair, hope you win.
Q, Blooming Burst. Neeko propels a seed which blooms and deals damage, triggering up to 2 times if it hits an enemy. Basic ability. From this preview I can say her damage is way too high.
Don't worry, that's gonna get nerfed.
Thanks. W, Shapeshifter. Passive, bonus damage and movement speed every 3rd attack, and active is basically a copy of LeBlanc's passive. I feel offended. E, Tangle Barbs. Same as Zyra E, except more damage and roots the last target longer if it hits at least 2 enemies. Okay, it's cute, nice, root, whatever. R, Pop Blossom, slightly nerfed Veigar ult, except it's an AoE around her, gives her a shield, and slows nearby enemies before it lands. I do not like this ult, I'm assuming it will be adjusted, but I do not like it for the damage. At max level, her ult deals 650 plus 130% ability power. Veigar ult deals 650 plus 150% ability power, so it's very close to Veigar ult damage. So Veigar can deal that damage if you're below 30% health.
I'm not, hell no, shit.
Her damage is fixed, it doesn't matter, like if you're at 100% or 10%, it doesn't matter. The only disadvantage of her ult is that it can be dodged by a flash. I mean, yeah, I certainly didn't imagine her such a heavy damage dealer, I imagined her more as a support based on her lore and personality. So that's that. Now onto her lore. This part of her I actually appreciated and liked. I won't spoil too much, but essentially she is a lonely girl who wishes to create her own tribe where everyone and everything is welcome. She is a very positive and kind spirit seeking to be surrounded by similar individuals. If you want me to do a lore spotlight, please leave a comment below. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room. She's a lesbian. And I thought it conflicted with her lore, so in fact it does more damage than it does help her identity, because it creates inconsistencies in her lore, in her descriptions, and nothing really contributes. Her sexuality isn't directly mentioned, especially in her lore, so all it does is create confusion and inconsistency, and doesn't solidify her as a character, and to me it feels forced through her quotes. It makes no sense when compared to her lore. In her lore, she describes Nidalee as a good friend, and although sad Nidalee hadn't joined her on her journey, she isn't overly shaken by it, as one usually would be if they were in love with someone. There weren't any implications of true love. If anything, based on her biography, Neeko was presented as a being who adores anything and everything. Her kind is the Uvi cat, and their Shoma, their spiritual essence, is said it could intermingle with other beings through mere proximity. Now, this explains her ability to mimic others. However, this exact feature is why her identity shouldn't be limited in such a way. I would imagine her as a curious spirit who adores everything, primarily valuing the spirit over the physical appearance. Especially as someone who can change shape, you would think she'd understand how superficial appearance is. I would expect her quotes to be more oriented towards the identity of the champion, their soul, to say she likes friendly and kind spirits, and dislikes evil ones. It would make sense, that when she intermingles with their essence and mimics them, she feels and knows their souls, their spiritual essence. However, her quotes do not match her biography in the slightest. Her quote, when she transforms into a male, says,
"Do I smell as bad as I look?" Yes.
Making her seem superficial. Her quote to Evelyn, for example, says,
"Evelyn is so extreme. Neeko curious."
This is a demon of evil we're talking about here, but that's irrelevant, right? She has boobies, so it's all good. So the soul or spiritual essence is absolutely irrelevant, as long as it's female. It doesn't add up with her lore. She seeks to create a tribe of loving individuals. Certainly these individuals shouldn't be welcome in it. If they made her quotes in a way that her preference leans into the female, I wouldn't mind, but her basically insulting male champions and her sexual identity being confirmed so bluntly on Twitter somehow makes her less, Also, she tells to Tarek, "The light in me knows the light in Tarek," meaning she indeed can understand someone's soul, so she feels evil in others but doesn't care as long as they're female? It's inconsistent. Also, we're still speculating about Tarek, which is fun and has become a trademark of League almost. You know, usually people will say his sexual identity isn't relevant, we don't need to talk about it. Meanwhile, Neeko isn't even released, and she's already confirmed to be gay, and this fact doesn't add up to her identity. Also, she says, male Shoma feels strange when transforming into any male champion. So the Shoma, aka spiritual essence, has a gender identity? Sounds a lot like something an SJW would want to see in a game, and I am not here to discuss these things, but I feel that such subjects should not be discussed too much into detail as they do provoke division, and I do not like it that it was included in a game that I adore. She doesn't have a short story yet, but I expect it to have some elements of love towards the female gender. This is the only way, in my mind, to clarify this further and say that her being a lesbian is relevant to her identity, rather than it being used for attention. I feel that such a thing should be respected and used with respect, rather than misused for attention. Because keep in mind, keep your foot in the real world. We know what causes and brings attention about. You know that headlines, "The first LGBT champion in League," will draw a lot of attention. Also, I find the label needless to be applied in a League game where champions' identities should be as endless as a starless sky. We do not discuss bisexuals or heterosexuals. We do not discuss whether Lucian is heterosexual. All we are discussing is that he lost his wife. That's what matters. Similarly, in the Varus cinematic, it doesn't matter if Kai and Val were gay. We didn't need or want confirmation of their sexuality. We saw pain, loss, and we understood what the story was. And even in that scenario, we didn't need to be told of their sexuality. We could conclude it on our own. Meanwhile, in Neeko's case, it's like, oh yeah, she's a lesbian, by the way. It's so bland, it makes her feel as a pile of traits, rather than a whole composed of those traits. There's no need or even reason to presume she is gay, other than her quotes. Quotes in the game are an extension of the lore, but they don't feel that way in this case. It sounds disjointed, as if they wrote the lore and only then decided that her sexuality plays a relevant part in her behavior. It low-key even seems as if she was just so uninteresting to them that they threw a label on her thinking that would fix everything. If you want an example where sexuality would be a justified subject and an interesting one to discuss, take Evelyn, who is a demon taking on a shape of a woman, and it makes you question how she thinks, how her form might change, how she picks her victims. I won't get into this discussion now, but she's a good example of where the subject is relevant and interesting, and where it is not. Whether Neeko is gay or not doesn't change her identity in any way, shape or form. If she were straight, her lore could stay identical as it is. It wouldn't change the outcome of her lore, her identity, powers, motives or desires. If you want an example of this disjointment, take someone who is also kind and a little quirky. Take Janna, for example, whose lore has just as many ups and downs as Neeko. You wouldn't find it strange if Janna would say something like, "Oh my, how inviting," to someone like Evelyn or something similar. It would be rather odd, even if she said it to a male champion. I feel such things should be subtle for them to be interesting.
It's so big.
Otherwise, it's just bland and forced, and just there's no real point in it. it just doesn't fit. There could have been a different route. They could have triggered a lot of content. Basically, they could have used Neeko to be a conduit to reveal the many little details about all these champions that we love and that we want to learn. They could have, you know, if she can see the essence, the spiritual essence of an individual, they could have told us through her quotes and her responses identities of certain champions. They could have told us that perhaps Lissandra, if she's either selfish or if she's selfless, or if there's a different reason for her sacrificing her sisters. They could have talked about Kaisen back, a monster, how she felt being rejected by most of the world. Perhaps there's something hidden there. They could have hinted plenty of things about Vladimir, who has many hidden motives we still don't know. You know, many things are left in between the lines. They could have used that. They could have shown that she knows things that we don't know, but instead this feels very superficial to me. You know, basically a quote that describes another champion saying that they stink and that they're ugly. You know, I really can't take that seriously, you know. I'm just not a fan of it. I do not think that she's, for me at least, you know, my preferences, I like champions like LeBlanc, I like Lissandra, I like Swain, I like Vladimir, I like the depth, you know, to their identity. Something, you know, something's there. But I'm sorry, Neeko to me feels as if Zoe and Lulu and for some weird reason Mundo and some Russian guy got into one champion, you know. It's just weird. I'm just not feeling it, you know. I'm not overly interested. I'm really sorry, and I hope you understand this opinion. I'm not trying to be controversial. In conclusion, when it comes to her lore, I like the lore. I do not like the inconsistency with her in-game quotes. As far as her gameplay goes, I think she would definitely be an interesting champion to play. I like most of her abilities, you know, it's pretty cool. She has decent poke, she has cloning and all that stuff. It would be interesting. I do wish, for the sake of giving LeBlanc the upper hand, that they would do something to her as well. I quite missed the old new version of LeBlanc where she could globally create an image of herself somewhere on the map. That was very, very interesting. I missed that. I wish they would in some way incorporate that as well. But all in all, I do not mind Neeko. I quite like her. It will be interesting to see her in game. I think I will have a lot of fun playing with her and against her. I mean, I love a smart player because I think she definitely will require you to think on your feet how to trick people. That's it for this video. Let me know what you think below. Do you like Neeko? What don't you like about her lore, abilities, or anything else? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and let me know if I should do a lore spotlight on her. Also subscribe for more content like this, and check out this piano version of Neeko's theme used throughout this video. It's absolutely amazing, I adore it. That's it from me. Now it's up to you, and I will see you in the next one.